This is Neil Schneider from MTBS at CES 2018. Of course, we always have great interviews here at CES, and we've got two guests from NATO. NATO! So tell us about NATO. What is NATO?
Well, we're the trade association for movie theaters.
What does NATO stand for?
The National Association of Theater Owners.
Okay, so it's not the same NATO you and I were thinking about, but this is still equally cool.
The only trade association with an Air Force, so it's
So let me properly introduce you. So this is Patrick Corcoran from National Association. Let's do that again. Patrick Corcoran and Phil Contrino. It's the last names that get me. But thanks for joining us. So tell me, what does your organization do?
We advocate and advise movie theater owners in the U.S. and around the world in about 95 countries on emerging technology. We work with legislatures and regulatory bodies and also with the press to sort of tell the movie theater story.
Okay, Patrick, if I may, when I think of a movie theater, you don't think it's such a complex thing, but it sounds like you're very much focused on emerging technologies. What types of things are theater owners interested in?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a myth that movie theaters aren't technologically savvy. I mean, we've done a lot to renovate inside the auditorium, and now we're here kind of talking about the place that VR has outside of the auditorium. A lot of our bigger members are going to start to get into VR in a big way in 2018, and it's an important story that we don't view emerging technology as a competition, right? We've been dealing with competitors since televisions came into the home, and now this past year the global box office has been bigger than it ever is. So VR is an opportunity for our members. It's not competition.
So why is virtual reality strategically important to theater owners? I mean, aren't they in the movie business?
Well, they are. The movies are always going to be the primary business, but you're in the experience business too, right? You've got people that are coming out of their home to be entertained. They're there primarily to see the movie, but if you can give them these other really unique experiences while they're at your theater, it just makes their experience much more exciting and fun. And that's why there's increased food options. Dinner in a movie is becoming a more popular thing, and why a lot of our members are adopting virtual reality.
If I may, one of the things I found when I go to the movies is the whole experience has really been enhanced. It used to be you go in, maybe you'd have some trailers ahead of the film and you enjoy your film. You get your popcorn, your drinks, and that's it. But now you go to a movie and it's not just about going to a movie. You could get dinner in a movie. It could be like a fancy schmancy meal while you're watching the movie. You got the cushy seats. So I'm hoping you could share what you're doing in VR, what some of your members are doing with virtual reality in theaters.
Right. Some of what they're doing is taking some of the lobby space and dedicating it to sort of whether there's going to be pods for doing virtual reality or just the area for it. Some are doing standalone, separate things like IMAX has its own little small retail locations. And I think there's a real opportunity there because the consumer doesn't know what VR is yet. They have sort of an idea, but they may have to buy really expensive, goofy-looking headsets, and they're not sure about that, and what are they going to watch? So this gives them an opportunity for a reasonable price to go in and experience it and find out what it's like. And it may be that will lead consumers into VR in the home as well.
And I'll say too, I mean, our most active moviegoers are very tech savvy, right? People that go to the movies 12, 15 times a year are also early adapters of the new video games, and they're watching content on different platforms, and they still seek out the movie theater experience. So the VR industry really needs to be in front of moviegoers in a very real way, and there's no better way to do that.
You brought up early on in this conversation that movie theaters are under constant bombardment of competition. And what I mean by that is like you got movie screens in the home, like 40, 60, you could have your own projector in the home. So when it comes to going out to the movies, I imagine it has to be an experience like no other. Like it has to be far beyond what you could ever achieve in the home. Now we're talking about virtual reality and immersive technology. It is becoming a more and more affordable technology. I mean, you've got just look at the holiday sales. Like PlayStation had their own headset for a couple $100s versus several $100s. Would you describe that the experiences that you'll find in movie theaters are going to be superior to what you'd get in the home? Like, is it going to be different?
Yeah, I mean, I think from a technological standpoint, the installations that exist in movie theaters and IMAX centers that Patrick mentioned, it is a superior thing than from what you would buy in the home. And again, it goes back to movie theaters providing the communal experience that you can't get. And that doesn't necessarily change with VR, right? VR can be a very isolating technology, and this is a common, criticism of it. So if you're watching VR in the home and you really enjoy it and you take off the glasses and the headset, but nobody else is around you to share in what you just watched, it's not as fun as if you're in a movie theater experiencing it in a lobby and all your friends are there and you get off it and you say, you guys got to do this, and you share in that experience. And that's what movie theaters provide.
Good stuff. Now, if I may ask, I mean, among your members, theater owners, what's their response been? I mean, they've been experimenting with it. Obviously, there's some pods in theaters and so on. What's their reaction been? Has it been a positive experience for them so far?
It's still so early that I don't think anybody has any real reaction to it yet. It's kind of like experimenting to see whether this is something that audiences want. It's what they do with any technology they put into their movie theater. Does it drive more ticket sales? Does it bring in a premium price? Do people like it? And if they do, they will be very, very happy, and they will provide more.
When I go to a movie, you go to see the movie, but a big part of that expense are the concessions. Popcorn, drinks, $30 away. I mean, that's it. But the money's got to be made. Do they see VR as a significant revenue driver for the theater? Are they looking at that as a revenue opportunity?
I think it's still early days. It's so experimental at this point for whether audiences will come out for it. It's kind of right now going to be an extra for people in the same way that concessions are an extra. Some people have to have it, but you go to the movie to see the movie and concessions will be extra. And now with all the things that you mentioned, like restaurant and alcohol service, things like that, those are more in line with standard restaurant pricing. The concessions are, like popcorn and soda, are in line with like stadiums and things like that. Just people are accustomed to it. But it is a voluntary expense in the same way that if they're in the lobby and they go, hey, there's that VR thing, let's try it, we'll see. It's going to be a new offering.
Now, this is an open-ended question. Are you aware of anything exciting happening in the theater space, that we can look forward to this year?
Not necessarily this year. I think you're going to see continued experiments with bigger screen technology, with a different kind of display technology. We don't know yet how audiences will react, but you're starting to see emissive display technology as opposed to a reflective screen. You have LED screens, a whole wall-sized panels of them that emits the light. So it's a different experience, and we have to see how audiences react, but it's in the pipeline.
If I may, did you want to add to this?
No, I think that's. I mean, the other thing would be sound too. I mean, sound is really jumping leaps and bounds with, new experiences and spreading the speakers out throughout the auditorium that various vendors are experimenting with. So,
one question I have is that, actually when I started my own career was in 3D. I mean, that's how, and what I found is that 3D has consistently stayed the course in the movie theater business versus the at-home business. I mean, at home we've got VR and immersive technology, but really the primary focus of stereoscopic 3D has been in movie theaters. Are theater owners still enjoying a benefit from the 3D space?
They do. It's not at the level that I think some people are like, this will transform everything. Everything will be in 3D. That's not happening, not going to happen, but it's settled down to a fairly consistent contribution to the bottom line and to the amount of movie going. It's 15 to 18% every year, and there are people who really want it. So the key is offering a lot of choices to a lot of different audiences, not one big audience. There's 300 million people in the country, and they show up to 1.25 billion times a year. So you've got to have a lot of different options to attract that kind of a crowd.
I just want to add, I think my son's a chip off the old block because now he insists on going to the 3D movie. So there's clearly some staying power there.
Well, I think there's a huge overlap between the people that come to CES and the people that enjoy going to see 3D movies. I mean, it's really your tech-savvy crowd that when you talk to them, when they go to the movies, they want it on the biggest screen possible and they want it in 3D. And that's a big segment of our movie-going population. And there's obviously a huge overlap between the tentpole movies and that experience. So it's a kind of combination of the best of our industry.
Right, good stuff. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Pleasure.
All right, good stuff. This is Neil Schneider at Meant to Be Seen. We will, of course, be back with more. Thank you for watching.